Hi and welcome back to another episode of Home with the Bhaglas. Today I'm gonna make my all-time favorite peach cobbler. As you can see, I've got a bunch of peaches here, and peaches are in season right now. But unfortunately, the kind of peaches we get in India, Indian peach they're called, are much smaller than their US counterparts, but they're equally good. So I'm going to use these to make the peach cobbler today. And of course, compared to other recipes that you may see in the US, they call for lesser number of peaches because the sizes are different. So I have made this recipe for Indian peach sizes, and we're going to divide this recipe into two parts. First, we're going to take care of the peaches, and next we're going to make the yummy batter that goes on top in the cobbler. So let's get started. So I've got about 500 grams to 700 grams of peaches here. You can use as many as you want. If you want to make it more peach heavy, you can add more peaches. It's fine, just up the ingredients a little bit. I've tried this recipe with 500 grams as well. That's the lowest I would go. But when I made it with 500 grams, I did feel like I wanted more peaches in the recipe. So today I'm gonna add a lot more peaches, and let's see how that goes. So I'm gonna be using a little over 700 grams or so. Yeah, so we've got our peaches and we're gonna cut them really nicely, and I've got about 1.5 teaspoon of corn flour, about the juice of 1 lemon. This roughly amounts to 1 tablespoon, and about 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, and about 5 tablespoons of granulated or caster sugar. Superfine sugar works better rather than bigger granules because it has to go in the oven. So I suggest you use superfine sugar. This has not been blitzed in the mixie or anything. This is just, you just get this in the market. You just call it superfine sugar, Bura sugar, caster sugar, whatever you want to call it. My very handsome husband has cut some very beautiful peaches, and now we're gonna mix all the ingredients in this and put it in the oven. I've already preheated my oven to 220 degrees centigrade, and I'm just gonna add the lime juice, the vanilla essence, corn flour, and the sugar. Now I'm going to mix everything together and put it in the oven, and these peaches are going to caramelize beautifully, and then we'll make the topping. I'm going to level this out a bit because I don't want any peaches to be standing out, because if a piece of peach is standing out, it will burn because the temperature is so high. And when you put it in the oven, make sure to put it in the middle rack. You don't want the peaches to be burned. You just want the sugar to caramelize, and it's going to bubble up a little bit, and it's going to have like this beautiful caramelized color. It's going to take about 20 minutes, but you can keep an eye out. Like maybe it takes 15 minutes for your oven or 25. Just keep an eye out. We don't want this to burn. It just needs to caramelize a little bit. Let's go. Okay, so while our peaches are in the oven, I'm going to run you through the second part of the recipe. I've got 185 grams of sifted flour. I've used all-purpose flour for this recipe. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 6 tablespoons of milk. I've got about 220 grams of breakfast sugar, and I've got about 85 grams of absolutely chilled butter. I've cut this into cubes, and I put this into the freezer 15 minutes before I began so that it's absolutely cold. And I've got 1 egg. Now into the flour, I'm gonna mix in my baking powder. Give it a good mix so it's well incorporated. To this, I'm gonna add the sugar. I'm gonna leave a little bit of sugar out. I'm gonna use this later to put it on top just so that it caramelizes really nicely. Now to the milk, I'm gonna add the egg. Beat it super nicely. Now I'm going to add the butter cubes to the flour mixture. And using my hands, I'm going to mix this till it resembles fine breadcrumbs. Now you want to break the butter with the heat of your hand so it mixes really nicely with the flour. So this is the texture that we're looking for. It's like fine breadcrumbs, grainy, and the butter has incorporated into the flour really well. And it's super important that you don't use room temperature butter for this. So now this is done, and all we're gonna do is add this a little bit at a time and just keep mixing it. We want this really wet, shaggy kind of a dough. Okay, so I feel like this is still a little dry, so I've got an extra tablespoon of milk. If you feel like your dough is fine, you don't need to add this. So our peaches are out of the oven and they've reduced down quite a bit, and you can see the slight caramelization on the edges. Now all I have to do is just pour this wet batter on top. It doesn't have to be a pattern, it doesn't have to be in an orderly fashion. Just take heapfuls of batter and just pour it on. When you put this in the oven, this will expand, so don't worry if it's not touching. And now I'm just gonna sprinkle the remaining sugar that we had left earlier. That's it, we're done. And now I'm going to put this in the oven at 200 degrees. It's my favorite time. It is the taste test time. I'm so excited. So this has a nice hollow sound, and I'm gonna dive right in. I don't have ice cream at home today, but if you guys have ice cream, please have it with vanilla ice cream. It is the best. Okay, here goes nothing. Nice. So I've got a bit of the peach and I've got the batter on top.
How is it?
Yeah, really good, sorry. It is.